Hey everyone, my name is Cole. I browsed my local Cinemark app for upcoming films and events that I could attend because I have nothing else better to do with my life. As someone who goes to the movies weekly and wants to try to see every new film possible, I was genuinely excited for the new TMNT flick, directed by Jeff Rowe, who the hell is this guy, but more widely known to be produced by Seth Rogen. I have a very love-hate relationship with Rogen. On one hand, he has directed and produced some great comedies that I have a soft spot for, along with some decent acting performances that I can appreciate. Hell, hearing him talk about certain projects, specifically Green Hornet, is very intriguing and helped inspire some appreciation for the filmmaker. With that being said, it seems like most projects he's involved in turn to absolute shit. It could be from his political bubble he hides in that dictates the execution of his projects, or simply missing the mark on his stoner comedies that don't have much depth to their purpose other than characters being high. Nonetheless, I was excited for Mutant Mayhem, as numerous topics that Rogen discussed prior to the film releasing left me curious. We oftentimes forget that the Turtles are teenagers. I think it is important and worth seeing this beloved IP taken in a more honest route where it could bring some genuine humor, but more importantly some nuance for what it's like to be a teenager and the responsibility with maturing and dealing with the burden of being a hero. Rogen left me excited. I wish I could come to you all today and say that this film delivered a witty and charming performance that reached the levels of the Last Wish and Spider-Verse films, but for me it fell flat on its face and displayed unoriginality. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem was trying so hard to be Spider-Verse, it's embarrassing. Let's get into it. There are no spoilers towards the story. I will be discussing characters, animation, performances, and the humor of the film. As always, enjoy! Aw, come on, this won't be all doom and gloom. There were some great aspects of this picture. First off, the performances of the entire cast were solid. Nicholas Cantu, I hope I said that correctly, who voiced Leonardo, had my favorite line delivery of the Turtles. There were a few moments where his delivery carried jokes that fell flat or scenes that called for mild authority. Honestly, the chemistry between the voice actors for the Turtles was very genuine. Before the film started at my early fan preview, there was behind the scenes footage of the making of the movie, and Seth Rogen said that a lot of the dialogue between the kids was completely improvised to give the audience a more authentic experience with the Teenage Turtles. It paid off, to say the least. They actually felt like brothers who have spent their entire lives together and that had a bond that seemed unbreakable. Though the film did fail to capture the differences in their personalities like previous adaptations were effective at, which left me a bit lost throughout the film as there wasn't a single turtle I necessarily cared for or liked specifically. Other than the Turtles, it was nice to hear Jackie Chan as Master Splinter, and I also had a great time with Ice Cube as Superfly. One of my favorite members of the cast was Paul Rudd as Mondo Gecko. His scenes were very entertaining. It was a very strong cast of voice actors that carried the film, though looking back at the casting, you can tell that they brought in all these high-profile voice actors to reel in audiences because, for example, they barely used actors like Giancarlo Esposito, who was literally not in the film for even 5 minutes. They really wasted the cast. Almost all of the voice actors were barely in the film, and it's a shame that they didn't utilize them to their maximum potential. Anyway, this film is visually spectacular. It's such a miracle that Spider-Verse inspired the animation realm on such a drastic level that studios are utilizing their talented artists to make literal paintings on screen. Each frame had such incredible detail and it was impossible not to appreciate it. I do still prefer both Spider-Verse films and The Last Wish's take on this style, but it was nice to see Mutant Mayhem take a different approach and offer a slightly different class to the visuals. Now, I did find that the animation lacked a punch. And across the Spider-Verse, you felt the momentum of each swing, each punch, each emotion the film threw at you with its revolutionary visuals. Mutant Mayhem looked great, but it did lack that extra pizzazz that brings weight to the action and levity that certain scenarios required. There were also a few moments in the first act where the filmmakers would use real footage from movies such as Ferris Bueller's Day Off, which really pulled me out of the atmosphere the film set. It was difficult to digest the stylistic details the artist crafted injected with real-life footage of actual people, which also just doesn't make sense since the humans were animated as well in the film. I don't know, it was a weird creative choice that did bother me. Across the Spider-Verse had the Insomniac Spider-Man game in the background and threw their animation over it, so don't give the filmmakers an excuse here. They used a karate montage as well with real footage, which continued this gripe I had, but it was never used again after the first act. So I wasn't pulled out of the film following this, but it was weird that they never did it again after Act 1. This is a small thing, but the soundtrack to the film felt out of place. I felt as if the filmmakers really wanted to capture the magic of Spider-Verse and their song choices, but they ended up choosing songs that were very unfitting for the established tone. In the Spider-Verse films, the soundtracks are deeply connected to the character of Miles Morales, his identity, specifically with his emotions, feelings, and the drama behind specific scenes. Mutant Mayhem seemed like they hit shuffle on a family-friendly playlist and settled for whatever they landed on. Let me know if you feel the same way, because the soundtrack just didn't work for me. Other than the talented cast, lovely animation, and the score, I found that the story was kinda simple. It was repetitive exposition that made the narrative extremely boring. We watch as the Turtles have been raised to fear and despise humans, as they hate and are disgusted by their appearance. The Turtles ultimately want to be accepted and eventually get entangled in a huge plot where other mutants want to get revenge upon the humans for being forced into hiding. My biggest issue of this is that it is bland. It's a good concept on paper, but it isn't executed effectively. There isn't much nuance or intrigue. I felt like I blinked and I was in the third act of the film. It was very rushed and wasn't compelling in my eyes. The relationship between the Turtles and other mutants were very forced, and the improvisation of the script made some scenes painfully awkward and caused scenes to drag on. The director intended for select scenes to be funny, but it left my theater so quiet you could hear a pen drop. Come to think of it, a lot of the humor was missing by a long shot. Looking back, actually, almost 80% of the jokes were referencing better movies. I'm not against pop culture references, but you cannot be doing them for most of your jokes. This film is going to age terribly since most of the jokes are in regards to teenage slang and modern culture references. I feel like this is filmmaking 101, but I guess the writers believed more references equals more relatable characters. Hell, do most kids in the newer generations even know who Ferris Bueller is? There was one scene where Michelangelo started to rant about Mark Ruffalo in Avengers Endgame when Hulk was taking selfies with kids, and the scene was so played out and it felt like a copy pasta from a Wikipedia site about how it was improvised by Ruffalo and everything. It was so absurd. I was baffled that a joke in an unrelated film was used for so long, which led me to question, once again, do younger audiences even pay attention to actors like Ruffalo specifically and not just the character of the Hulk? There were attempts at adult humor, but it felt like those attempts were more just inappropriate and blunt instead of creative that would allow for more mature audiences to catch on. I don't know, the humor was a huge miss in this film, and that was honestly what most families and audiences were wanting to see. Back to the story. Damn, the humor aspect of this film really annoyed me. The relationships of the Turtles and the mutants was insanely rushed. At the end of the film, the Turtles were depicted as monsters by the media, despite a threat destroying the city, which seemed a bit ridiculous, but the movie really wanted to hit you on the head with saying that the Turtles aren't monsters and that they can be bigger than that, they can be heroes, yada yada. It's completely inoffensive, which is completely okay, but I'm at the point where I believe creatives need to take more risk with their art, especially for animation. You're using such a versatile medium for storytelling and you're choosing to make it this boring? Come on, there's better options than this. Eventually, the black-washed character of April, which continued the Hollywood trend of ginger side, comes to save the day and change the media narrative on the Turtles, and all of a sudden, the people of New York changed their minds after hearing what the media told them to think. Come on, we knew what they're going for. Once again, it was inoffensive, but it was very blunt and straightforward with its execution, and I felt like it could have been better. I don't know how anyone can walk out of the theater after this movie being emotionally or artistically impacted. I can't imagine anyone will walk out saying it changed their life or is now one of their favorite films like the Spider-Verse films. It is not special by any means. At the end of the day, Mutant Mayhem left me saddened to realize that this was probably just a film for those who exclusively watch cape films and animated pictures. Nothing against those genres, but it reminded me that people need to watch more movies. I found Mutant Mayhem to display the unoriginality we see in our modern entertainment industry, and it scares me for what's to come. Especially after the idiotic CEO of Paramount dropped this gem of a statement days prior to the film. God, originality is dead. Without original ideas, we would never have gotten the Disney Renaissance. Toy Story, Ratatouille, Shrek, you name it. Animation would never be the same, and now Paramount wants to make animated films that are only for big IPs because they don't want to risk people not going to go see their film. Maybe you should make good products that would actually generate hype and interest and not just hollow shells like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Mutant Mayhem. I don't hate this film, but I was hoping it was going to be better than it was. The final product, in my opinion, is generic, underwhelming, and unoriginal. A visually pretty movie with a mediocre script should not be deemed as good, purely because it is nice to look at. I'm tired of people being okay with bland movies just because they are watching a lighthearted animated movie. Grow up, please. But hey, what do you think? Did you like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem? Let me know in the comments below, and show mercy. If you liked it and think it was the greatest film ever, that's great, and I hope it has a profound impact on your life, but don't bust my balls for having a different opinion. Anyways, like and subscribe, check out my other videos and all that jazz, and you can also follow me on Instagram and Letterboxd at Cole Protocol, where you can also see my official rating for movies such as Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem. As always, peace.